Hello everyone! In today's video I will talk about my experiences with the full game release of Baldur's Gate 3. I was honored to be invited into the press release of Baldur's Gate 3 and I have been playing the full release of the game for 3 days now with barely getting any sleep at all, so sorry if I will sound a bit sleep deprived, but do not worry, I will not show any spoilers in this video. The only footage that I will be showing in the background is from Act 1, so do not worry, I will not spoil your fun and I want you to discover this amazing game by yourself. Of course, there are some changes in Act 1, the interface changed as well, so if you consider that a spoiler, I understand if you don't want to watch the video, but I did my best to not show anything important so you can have your free experience by yourself when you're gonna be playing today. My first thoughts about the game. It didn't take long to see the changes. Right away you are greeted by a new menu, which I have to say looks amazing, and if you're gonna hang out here for a couple minutes, you're gonna see some interesting stuff going on in the background. The new interface is very intuitive and also more polished. It did take me a couple minutes to get used to it after such a long time spent in the early access, but I have to say I like it a lot. I played most of the game on Tactician difficulty, especially when I reached Act 2. In Act 1 I did tune it down to normal sometimes just to speed things up, because well, I played Act 1 in early access so many times that I just wanted to see the new stuff. But I did not rush the game at all, no, not at all. I actually explored every nook and cranny in Act 1 to find the new stuff that Larian has put in. The only thing I skipped a bit was the Underdark because I didn't feel like going through the particular one area of the game again for the 4th time, and I am currently still in Act 2, trying to leave no stone unturned. So as you can probably tell, with 70 hours in, I am not even close to finishing the game yet. I know it well because of certain story aspects, and I know I didn't see a lot of stuff still, and there is still the entire Baldur's Gate city for me to explore that I didn't even reach yet, so I'm gonna make a video on that when I'm going to be making the full-on review of the game, but in this video I want to share my impressions on the mechanics, the new class aspects, and everything in between. So let's just talk about the character I picked first. I decided to play a drow to see all the changes in reactivity because I know there is a lot for them, and Larian also said that they added a bunch, so I really wanted to see the reactivity of the system right away and just see the people's reaction of seeing a drow in the wilds. And I have to say, I am very impressed. A lot of people mention your race, and it also changes some of the results of the things you're gonna do in the game. And it can change quite a bit on how you're gonna finish quests. And same goes for your class and also your subclass. Yes, I am playing as the infamous Vengeance Paladin, don't judge me. It wasn't because of the edgy aspect in combination with the Dark Urge, believe me. I just picked it because I love paladins in D&D and video games as a whole, so I just knew that my first playthrough has to be as a paladin. Oh yeah, and I did pick the Dark Urge despite me not recommending it for new players, and honestly, if it wasn't for me wanting to review the game and also wanting to see the story of the Dark Urge, I probably would have picked the normal avatar as well, because even without the aspect of the Dark Urge, your custom character does have a ton of reactivity, the story is so integrated into what you're doing in the game. So even as a normal character, so to speak, there is still a lot of reactivity and you won't be disappointed by picking a standard avatar. Because let me just say, if you are not prepared for some plot twists, if you want to play a goody two-shoes, Dark Urge is not for you. I'm not going to go into any details, but let me just say that there are some stuff you cannot avoid. I was gasping vocally on a couple scenes and I wish I could unsee them. But yes, for the most part you can control your urges, but they always come with a consequence. And if you don't give in, well, you're in for a hell of a surprise. And that is all I'm going to say about the Dark Urge, the rest you have to explore yourself. So yeah, if you're of the faint of heart and just want a strictly good playthrough, trust me, just pick a normal TAF. There is so much reactivity on your race and class that you won't feel bland, trust me on that. With that out of the way, let's talk some specifics and things I really liked about the game. First up, let's talk about the changes from early access that you should know about before starting playing. As I already mentioned, the UI is a bit different and you will notice it right away on character creation, which over time grew on me a lot. Perhaps my only complaint is about the multiclassing icon, which took me a second to notice. I know it is done on purpose so people don't get tempted blindly into multiclassing, but I feel like there should be some more indication about it, but maybe it was mentioned in the tutorial and I simply didn't notice. Also, respecialization is super easy and gets unlocked really early into the game, and the best part, it is not expensive at all and you can do it anytime you want for yourself or for your companions, but the game will still treat them as the same class they started out as by default. Personally, I try to keep the balance between lore friendly and fun, so I made Astarion a Gloomstalker and Lae'zel a monk, for example, which I know is more the Githzerai way rather than the Githyanki, but alas, she has to live with my choice and I also think it's pretty damn badass. Just don't think about making my Gale into anything else else than a wizard or at the most a sorcerer. Just kidding, do whatever you want, it's your game. Class implementation and leveling. Perhaps the thing that interested me the most coming into the full game, how were the new subclasses going to be implemented, and also how do the later levels look like? Well, without spoiling anything, the class implementation is great. All the builds we did over the course of the last month are strong or even stronger, as most things taken from the rulebook is here with some bonuses. I especially like the Sorcerer, which now gets to use Fly after every spellcast, which is awesome. College of Swords Bard is also great, and so is Gloomstalker and the Assassin. Overall, the implementation is very true to D&D, and I will be making new guides for them in the coming weeks with updated leveling routes and even more class combinations. Itemization. Oh boy, there is a lot, and I mean a lot of magic items in the game. And the best part is, I don't think they are crazy overpowered, at least not yet, which surprised me the most in the uniqueness of them and how many builds they can potentially enable. I think there is an item out there or a couple for pretty much every class and subclass and some amazing build enablers. I was honestly surprised how much thought went into itemization and how many cool things you can equip. And the best part is, some items can last you a really long time if there's a specific ability tied to it or a passive feature that enhances your character. It reminded me a bit of ARPGs like Path of Exile or to a lesser extent Diablo 4. No, I'm not saying that Baldur's Gate 3 is action-based RPG, it is a very tactical and not based on smashing your keyboard at all. I'm just saying that the itemization is really extensive and probably 1/3 of my game time was spent on reading all the various magical items in the game. Some people will maybe even be overwhelmed, but don't be alarmed, you don't have to look at 20 different rings an hour to do well in the game. You might have a bit of a challenge in combat, but you will do fine, especially on normal difficulty. I don't want to spoil any details on items, that will come in my future videos with builds and my favorite items, but I just had to mention that I absolutely love the itemization and things the items can enable in Baldur's Gate 3. I think it's really unique for an RPG of this scale. When it comes to the UI of the inventory, I really like how it is quite a bit cleaned up now and more clear, but there is a bit of a case of overbloating your inventory and stash, and when I first saw the dreaded item pouches from Divinity 2, I shuddered a little. But on further observations, the bags within bags are only for camp supplies, alchemical supplies, and keyring, which is actually really helpful. Still, my main character's inventory has a lot of stuff in it that I didn't bother to clean up yet, but such is the fate of an RPG, so I learned to live with it. If I had more time before this interview, I would probably fix the amount of letters, gems, unused loot, and clutter I have lying around, but just like Asmongold's room and somewhat mine over the last couple days, it is what it is. Also, I am not sure if it was in the early access or not, but I love how you can multi-select items and move them around. It makes organizing a little bit easier. And tagging individual items to move is very helpful. I just wish there were tabs or a button to organize your traveler's chest in camp and that the screen was bigger on it. A tab like we have when trading would be wonderful to have. When it comes to the trading itself, things didn't change that much. And unless I'm blind, there is no sorting well in the shop, which can be a bit frustrating when deciding what you want to sell. But at least shopkeepers have their stuff organized with the best items usually on top and replenishables at the bottom. So that is very clean looking, and I always check vendors for new items on new levels. Oh, and also you can save during dialogue now, so I don't want to suggest anything, but stealing in a way has become even easier. But a lot of NPCs are surrounded by guards or other people now, so you better have those invisibility potions and spell ready at the go. Reactivity. I know that we spent a bit of time on it already in the intro, but again, I just have to say I don't remember the last time I played an RPG that just had so many different variables tied to the conversations and outcomes of quests that you can get. The world is more detailed than ever, and in Act 1 you're gonna notice changes to it too. There was definitely more interactions, but also your characters reacted way more than before. Some people were worried that outcomes of conversations will always have the two results. You either pass the check and get the beneficial result, or if you fail, something bad always happens. Well, not always. There was quite a bit of scenarios where I actually reloaded the game after passing a save, because not only did I want to see the other result, I also liked it more. I feel like in some cases it was done on purpose because Larian anticipated how many people will play charisma-based characters, and while of course it enables some awesome dialogue, one in particular that I loved in Act 2, and yeah, often you want to pass that charisma check, but some results are so drastic and downright sad even that I rather took the approach with a different check or no check at all. So experience with it and don't be afraid to fail those checks. It's more natural and sometimes maybe even has better outcomes than, well, let's say forcing someone to do something that might not be the most pleasant to see. And that goes for both good and bad playthroughs. I already talked about how many reactions I got for playing a drow, and I absolutely love it. Your companions and the world definitely react to your race, and it feels like a mini origin by itself. When you add your class and subclass to it, it becomes a grand package of awesome reactivity. And yeah, Darkridge does add even more on top of that, but trust me, it might not be the type of more content you would want on your new or good aligned playthrough. Now onto the content itself. Let us start with Act 1, and further I will not go into any specifics, but yeah, Act 1 is larger. However, do not expect vast amounts of new areas or a completely changed act. The reactivity has just been expanded by 1/3 or more, so you will definitely have a different experience from the very start on the Nautiloid. Even some areas in the tutorial were changed quite a bit, but you will see that for yourself very soon. Some layouts of the map were changed as well, and it's a welcome change. The areas are more logical in design in my opinion, and there is still new stuff to experience, but don't expect a complete overhaul. Rather, talk to everyone and experience the vast additions to dialogue and overall atmosphere, which is even better than before. And of course, there is more items as well with more variety. And also your mini-map and the big map when you press M on the keyboard was changed and looks a lot better and easier to navigate through as well. Now when it comes to later in the game, I'm just gonna say this, don't worry, no spoilers. But if you really want, you can skip to the next segment. Let me just say this, I absolutely love Act 2 and its atmosphere. I want to talk more about it, but I'll keep it for my future review video. I was always a fan of settings like Ravenloft, so I felt right at home here, and I think while unsettling, lots of you will enjoy it as well. If I really had to nitpick something, is that early on in Act 2 and on the route to it in the game, it can feel a bit linear, at least in one area. But then again, we know we have different branching paths before we even get to this point, so it's understandable, and also I can't really say something is linear when we have different paths we can take to Act 2 alone. All I'm gonna say is that going through the mountain pass itself was a bit shorter than expected. However, that is probably understandable given the fact that the Githyanki crash is located here, and it's a huge part of the area, and let me just say it's one of my favorite areas in the game, both by areas and atmosphere, and I will say no more. So yeah, content-wise, I have to say that you have to treat Act 1 a bit like a tutorial level, and then the game really opens up, and you're gonna see the full scope of the game the further you go in. That's where we get into the story. But don't worry, do not leave the video, I won't spoil you the game here, just my pure thoughts about my excitement to continue the game and find out more in the story. I will not mention any plot points or anything important at all. Besides, I am still not even halfway in the game, so I can't fully form an opinion anyway. Let me just say that the scope is grand and you will be meeting some, let's say, interesting people pretty early after you leave Act 1, depending on the route you'll take of course, but there is definitely the feeling of an epic story about to unfold, and I squealed audibly when I saw some characters that I predicted will be showing up in Baldur's Gate 3. Some of them already did, and I can't wait to see more as I go towards the city of Baldur's Gate itself. Before we finish, I have to address it of course. Were there any game-breaking bugs? Did I continue to play without any issues? Or did I encounter any bugs at all? Of course I did, but it was nothing game-breaking and I had a pretty smooth experience from the beginning to, well, not end, but to the point I am right now. It's also important to remember that you guys won't experience the ones I had probably, because you will have the pleasure of playing with the day 1 patch on full release. Saying that, I do want to mention a couple spoiler-free ones, and those include a bit of screen tearing in some places. I did experience black boxes around the interface portion of the game especially, but that could be related to my PC or graphics card. On one occasion Halsin's body disappeared, which I was very sad about, one time I got decapitated, and one time my character was suddenly bold in conversations, but maybe the game was trying to tell me something, I don't know. Also I had some audio issues with the dialogue not being synced to the conversation once or twice, and also no dialogue option on a very rare occasion. And combat music sometimes were not playing during combat, but I must say sometimes I actually enjoyed the ambience of the fight. So all minor gripes and nothing game breaking at all. For the scope of the game, I'm having pretty much an uninterrupted experience, so I am very glad to say it will probably be even more bug free. As you are watching it right now, it probably will be already patch 1 out, and you will probably have an even greater experience. And that concludes my early impressions, well, early after 70 hours of playtime. As you are watching it, I am probably back at the game again, and I wish you a great experience today as well. Baldur's Gate 3 is like a gourmet meal to be savored, so don't feel like you have to leave Act 1 prematurely. Explore everything, because I am sure you will enjoy it. I won't be saying yet, did the game exceed my expectations or was it overhyped? I reserve my full judgment until I actually finish the game, but from what I've seen so far, I am hooked and I am addicted and I can't wait to get back into the game, so if that doesn't say what I think about Baldur's Gate 3 so far, I don't know what does. I stayed up with 2 hours of sleep for 3 days straight for this game, and I would gladly do it again. Just remember folks, drink plenty of water and remember to move around every hour, especially if you're over 30 like me. You don't want those blood clots or anything else happening to you while playing. So I'm hoping all of you will have a wonderful experience today with Baldur's Gate 3. The game is finally out and I can't wait to hear your story, what you think about the game and your experiences. Now just a closing word about my stream. Before getting the review copy, I intended to stream the game, but right now I am not sure if I will have the energy today, as I am getting a bit exhausted after the 3-day gaming session. But if I will, catch me at Twitch TV Kenra either today or tomorrow. Just keep in mind I am deep into Act 2, so come at your own risk. However, you might also catch me on a fresh playthrough, because I will be going through the game with my girlfriend as well, so maybe you will come and say hi to us as well. Anyway, thank you for watching, have a great and wonderful gaming session today, just remember to move around and drink plenty of water, and I'll see you again very soon.